Hello there, it's Ted Lowe with Guitar Girl Magazine here in Nashville, Tennessee with our old friend Andy Powers, Taylor Guitars. How are you, Andy?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well.
Good
Thanks
to see you.
for being here.
You're pretty excited these days because you got some new goodies coming out,
Yeah, we got
right?
some toys to play with,
I
man.
can see that, and I'm holding one, but I would just do this out of respect to you, but I won't play it, I promise. But they certainly have a comfortable feel. Tell us about some of the new stuff without giving away too many secrets at this stage that's coming out.
Okay, so what this guitar is all about is it's a whole different flavor for Taylor. It's a different direction. It's a different kind of sound. I mean, a lot of our guitars are known for being a very modern, very real vibrant kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a guitar that, in some ways, looks backwards a little bit. You know, it's a sound. It's a sound that's familiar. You know, it's the kind of sounds that we remember from the records we heard when we grew up.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's something that's got some time on it.
So I've heard you talk about like the Taylor Grand Auditorium being kind of a contemporary guitar, you know, a modern guitar. And so now you're talking about this as being kind of a throwback.
Yeah, in some ways, but not necessarily what I'd call an old guitar or a vintage guitar or anything like that. It isn't really that. It's more of a modern interpretation of what those sounds were like.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of things that I am totally not willing to give up. I want a good fret job on a guitar. I want the wonderful intonation that we get with the V-class architecture.
Mm-hmm.
I want the balance and the sustain that we get out of a modern guitar design. I want all of those great musical attributes. But what I want, in addition to that, is a note that's shaped a different way. So let me explain it this way. On a modern grand auditorium guitar, you have notes that are very clear and precisely articulated. They're very orderly. They're very they're almost like triangular shaped notes. You know, they fit right where they go. You know, so if you strum a chord, all those notes line up in beautiful harmony, but you can identify every one of them. You know, they have a spot they sit at, right?
Mm-hmm.
This guitar makes notes that have accuracy, they have great intonation, but the note is broad, it's wide.
Give us an example of what you're talking about.
They blend together. So if I strum an open position chord, I can hear the way all those notes stack together.
Okay.
But what I hear is the chord. Because every single one of those notes has a kind of a wide path that it takes.
Mm-hmm. So in this this design, the sound that you're looking to get out of it, is it geared toward a particular type of music, style of music, or is it still versatile?
I mean, a lot of people are going to say, well, that's a bluegrass guitar, or that's a roots music guitar. And you know, I don't know that I can really say that. I mean, I want to say somewhat broadly, it's a guitar for guitar players.
Right, right.
You know, because some of the most traditional players I could think of pick this guitar up and go, oh yeah, that one's ours. We're claiming that one as our own.
Okay.
That's our guitar. And the very next day, I see that some of the most modern guitar players I could name are saying the exact same thing, going, oh no, that's our guitar. Man, that is cool. And so everywhere in between, you go, this is the closest thing to a general purpose guitar.
So if I'm a Taylor artist and I'm playing on stage and I have, you know, my own collection of Taylor guitars, am I going to add this to the collection, or am I going to say, well, I don't know?
It's possible. It's a different flavor.
Yeah.
You know, so for a lot of players, a modern Taylor Grand Auditorium guitar, that is the thing. That's like the gold standard. And understandably so. They work really good. I love those guitars.
Yeah.
And this is
It's just like having three electrics on the stage. It depends on what sound you're trying to get at that particular moment.
It's like, man, you don't eat the same thing for lunch every day.
Right. Yeah. That's
you're going for different flavors. You're looking for different things.
So let us learn a little bit more about you, because we always come in and talk to you, and we talk about all your wonderful innovation and the work that you do in building these fine instruments. Tell us who Andy Powers is a little bit. How did you become who you are in terms of all the things that you're able to do, musically and otherwise?
You know, I want to say that my story is not all that unique. I just did what I did.
Which is?
Well, I got really into guitars when I was young.
Yeah.
My dad's a carpenter, and both my parents are hobbyist musicians.
Okay.
right? So I fell in with guitars. I started on piano when I was a real little boy, because we had this old, it was a player piano that had been converted into a regular piece. So I started taking piano lessons, but my parents and all their friends played these songs. It was almost like the work music of the day. There was a lot of country music, a lot of bluegrass, a lot of real kind of salty 3-chord songs.
Yeah,
you
right.
know?
The fun ones.
Yeah, fun,
Yeah.
all these fun tunes.
Yeah, right.
And I'd see them sitting around and playing these songs and sharing that. I mean, there was, I think, between probably 10 people, there was 2 guitars and a mandolin. You know, they kind of just pass them around.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, this is like the greatest thing.
Yeah.
This is what music is for. It's like a inclusive kind of an environment. And so I really took to guitars. And my dad being a carpenter, I was pretty comfortable with woodworking tools, because that's what we had. And he would always bring home scraps of wood from his jobs. And one day he brought home a scrap of wood that was big enough for me to cut a guitar shape out of. So I thought, oh yeah, you're building a guitar.
Was that his intention, or that's just what you came up with?
It's just what I felt like.
Yeah,
it seemed like a good idea.
Yeah, right.
I was a kid, so I didn't know any better. I didn't know that they were hard to make. I just thought, oh yeah, you just make it kind of shaped like that, and you need a neck, and you need some tuning keys and strings. Done.
Yeah.
And so I made a guitar-shaped object and got 6 mismatched tuning keys and a used set of strings, and it blew up.
You know, that reminds me of when I was young. You remember the wooden skateboards? Maybe you're a little
Oh, yeah.
too young for that.
No,
I
made
decided to
some.
cut myself a skateboard, right?
Yeah,
Whoa,
same kind of
that
thing.
was hard work by the time I finished beveling the edges and getting
Oh,
that thing
yeah.
to look the way it's supposed to look.
Yeah, you got to make sure you get the right wheel
Oh,
clearance
yeah.
too, so if you turn,
Yeah.
you don't bind the wheel on the bottom. and
Yeah, some things
go
are just
flying.
look a little easier than they actually are to do.
Yeah, a guitar was like that.
So you're obviously you go from being a craftsman, musician. What about, do you write your own music and your own lyrics?
Yeah, I do. I write that.
And it would be in the bluegrass, rock.
Depends on the
Folk?
Kind of depends on the day.
Uh-huh.
The thing is that I had a lot of musician friends around when I was
Yeah,
growing up, and
right.
I've always had. I live near musicians, and you kind of make the friends that you've got, and I was fortunate to grow up with some real good musicians, and a couple of them are really good vocalists, and I am not. In fact,
So you can't do everything?
Oh, yeah, when I was a kid, I had this piano teacher, and she was like the saint of piano teachers, right? Just the kindest lady you could ever possibly take lessons from. She had this beautiful accent, and she was Australian and married to an Italian gent. And she had this glorious voice. You know, she'd been trained at a conservatory and in kind of the operatic style, and so I'd taken piano lessons from her for years. I'm like, okay, so I was playing in a lot of bands at the time. Like, I need to brush up my background vocals. So for like a good year and a half, I take some vocal lessons from her. And finally, she goes, Andrew, darling, you're doing everything right. Your posture is right, your breathing is right. Your voice just doesn't sound good. Just don't sing.
I got to tell you, I have a similar story.
Just don't sing. But if you must sing, please don't tell anyone that I taught you.
Right. Well, so my story, my story on that level is a 2-second long story. I was raised in a Catholic school with nuns, and they just came over and whispered politely to me, "Just mouth it." So I kind of in your boat right there with you. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit.
I've just always really
Yeah.
loved playing instruments and making sounds and learning about musical styles and different styles of composition. I mean, there's so many ways you can go. I got really into playing jazz when I was young. Loved that. Was fortunate to be around some great jazz musicians in San Diego area. Around some good bluegrass musicians. Got really into electric guitars. All kinds of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes in every form.
Well, let's talk about the guitar again. So I noticed as I feel the neck, it's kind of contour. It looks like somebody with small fingers. We focus on female musicians, so we're always thinking about them as well as all other musicians. But would you say that this particular design might be friendly towards the female musician?
It's friendly towards musicians.
Okay.
I don't make a huge distinction between a male or a female musician. I think, well, they're musicians. They play.
Which is great, yeah.
But what I do look at is the way we hold our hands when we play. Most of the time, necks they're like a uniform profile. And sometimes that strikes me as odd because our hand certainly isn't uniform.
Right.
Especially the way we hold it. I mean, down here, farther on the neck, I'll wrap my thumb around the neck farther. You know, and play chords or whatever. And when I come up here, my neck is more in the middle, or my thumb's more in the middle of the neck.
Right, because the neck's wider
Yeah,
here,
and
plus you're trying to get lower.
That's the natural wrist position, right?
Right.
So we've made this what we call a compound carve, where the profile actually changes to encourage or kind of fit with your natural hand position.
Okay.
You know, it's rolled over into the edge of the fingerboard a bit, so it feels immediately familiar, like it's something that you've held onto for a long time.
Okay. Yeah.
In fact, the whole guitar, it's meant to encourage that comfort level. Like even the bridge design is a bit different, so there's no real sharp corners or points or anything. It's meant to just feel like you've lived with it for a long time.
Okay. And how about the woods that you're going to be using in these?
This particular one that I'm holding is a 717 model.
Okay.
So it's East Indian rosewood on the back and sides with roasted spruce top.
Okay.
It has that it's kind of a classic rosewood voice, with real complex, harmonically rich sort of sound. The one that you've got there in your hands is Honduran mahogany with spruce. Aesthetically, they're decorated almost the same.
Yeah, they're like the
because
same.
this was meant to be like the guitar player's guitar. It's a musician's instrument. You know, so it's not real lavishly decorated, not a ton of inlay work and other fancy embellishments.
Right.
It's meant to be just an instrument to play songs with, tell your stories with.
Do you have a preference on the, resonate on the sound that you get from each
You know,
type of wood?
I don't. I really can't choose between the two. That's why one of the reasons I wanted to build both is these two guitars have very different flavors. Because that mahogany guitar, that wood will lend a different flavor to that sonic recipe. And it has like this dry, fundamental, strong quality. So if you're strumming open position chords and you do have a voice that you're going to sing over it, it's a perfect guitar for that.
Okay.
Now, other people will like the more harmonically complex voice that you get out of the rosewood guitar.
Okay.
They're both equally good, just in different ways.
Oh, wow, interesting. So what style of music do you gravitate to? When you sit down and play, what are you most likely going to be picking out of that guitar?
It kind of depends on the day. It depends on why I picked the guitar up at that minute. Like, my wife and I have got 3 young kids, so if I pick the guitar up and it's bedtime, only ballads.
Oh, interesting.
No fast songs,
No fast songs,
No quick bluegrass things.
Right.
You know, sometimes you want to go. And play that. Sometimes you want to do that kind of thing. It comes in every form. I'm not sure I could choose a favorite.
You much on the Beatles stuff?
Yeah, I'm a big Beatles fan.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's really
There's
good.
So many cool songs out there.
Well, it's always fun catching up with you, and I'm looking forward to getting more detail on these beautiful instruments coming up in NAMM. And
Winter NAMM.
From your, so we're leading into what's coming out next, which is NAMM, Winter NAMM coming up. When we project out beyond that, since you've always got a little workshop in your mind going on, what can we expect, if not specifically, directionally?
Let's just say that the next couple of years are going to be a really exciting time to be a guitar maker.
Very cool. Well, it's always fun to see you. Thanks so much, okay?
Take
Good
care.
luck to you. See you in the winter.
Thanks.
So I've got this little sort of a rockabilly thing.
Great.
Okay, so it goes something like this. Something like that.
Fair enough, man.
You helped it along very nicely. Thank you.